thank you for coming. I'm going to tell you a little bit about our export story, and I hope you'll find it useful or at least interesting, and I'm very happy to answer any questions afterwards. So I'm Emma Rogers, and I'm CEO of a edtech company called Littlebridge World. I'm not going to tell you an awful lot about what we do, but we're exhibiting here at BET. We're on stand D200, and you're very welcome to come and meet us, meet the team, and have a look at what we're doing. What I was asked to talk about here was how technology has helped us in our export journey. And so I came up with the three things I thought we needed to look at, which is the tools that we use, the trends that we're seeing, and some of the triumphs that we've experienced, and we believe anybody who puts their mind to it could do the same as we've done. So before we go there, I just thought I'd start off by telling you a little very low-tech story about how Littlebridge started. It wasn't Littlebridge in those days. It was we'd created a product actually for teaching foreign languages to English-speaking children. And we developed this product, and it was basically a CD-ROM product, so it was in boxes, and we took delivery of a lot of boxes before we actually thought about, okay, now how are we going to sell this? And we basically gathered together a whole bunch of people, including all my 4 children and their friends and everybody, and we hired a room, and we literally stuffed envelopes with information that we could send to schools about our products. So it was, as I say, a pretty low-tech solution to getting out there in the marketplace for the very first time. And I'm glad to say it was successful enough for us to think, actually, we can move forward on this. And one of the things we learned very soon afterwards, that was in around about August, September one year, was that there was this event called the BET Show that we should be at, and that where we would meet new customers. And so having learned 2 things, one is that it's very important to have a great product, and secondly, it's very important to get out to your customers. We moved to BET, and we exhibited on a very tiny little corner of a stand, and we've discovered then that there was actually an appetite for what we were doing, but particularly for teaching English, which is where we are now. But immediately, we were faced with problems because we suddenly had all these people coming to see us saying, actually, we love your product, and we'd love to distribute it in our territory. What next? And we realized again that we were singularly unprepared to know what to do next. So then it sort of began to dawn on all of us that actually in this day and age we've got a whole raft of things that we could do that basically anyone can do so long as they've got access to the internet. So we basically got started, and I think I'd just like to move on and just show you, if you like, jumping ahead, what in fact that meant and what happened in the next 2.5 years. So we ended up with our product in those countries and about the same on the other side of the globe. And that meant that we really did have a business that was export driven. So I'm starting with a little triumph because I think that's where anybody who's interested in export wants to go. So my company has around about 25 people, of which the vast majority are developers, and a very small proportion are the sales team. They all complain that there's not enough of them. But what I want to try and emphasize is that that's what we've achieved, even with a relatively small sales force. We've now got customers in 140 territories, and partners in about 15 of those. So this is really the story of how we got started. I'm going to go back again to talk about the product, because that's the first thing that I think anybody who's thinking of exporting has to get right. you really do have to do a lot of research on your product and a lot of work developing your product to, A, make it as best as you possibly think it can be. And I'm always on about product, but that's probably because I've got a product background rather than a straightforward business background. But I can't stress enough. You get the product right and you're halfway there. And we're still doing this. We're constantly updating and refining and developing our product, listening to our customers, the kids who use it, the parents who watch their kids using it, and the teachers, obviously, who are helping us raise the awareness of our customers, and hopefully, in fact, I think I can confidently say, are seeing the benefits of using a product that's specifically designed to maximize all the hardware, all the technology that they've been investing in their classroom. So I will just say, you really do have to develop a thick skin if you're going to do this, because you do have to listen to feedback. And that's one of the hardest things. I think anybody who's built a product or a service and is very proud of what they've done, you are going to get some quite harsh feedback, and you do have to act on it. And if you don't, I think then you're beginning to sow the seeds for problems for yourself down the line. So start plugging into whatever you can to get that feedback and understand what you need to do to keep your product growing, evolving, and meeting the needs of all your customers. And though it feels like stating the obvious, coming up with a great product at a price that people can afford and that you can also afford to grow your business is the very first thing you have to do. And the more places you're doing in it, the more you're going to have to look at what you're doing and analyze it. Alongside that, you've then got to get your message out of why your product's so great and why it's so different. And you've only got to look around a place like this to see what a crowded space it is. But the very obvious thing you have to do is get your message out. So trying to make sure that your product is viewed on a global scale is quite a challenge. But as I keep going back to, we're a relatively small team, and we managed it. So again, forgive me if I'm stating the obvious, but you'd be surprised how many people don't seem to plug into this. The very first thing you need to do is make sure you've got an internationally facing website. And it's got to be, something that customers coming to your business and your offering have got to, if you like, have a sense that this could be something for them. Even if you're not actually presenting your website in their language, it's got to have that sense that actually there could be something in this for us. So again, this is what our website looks like. This is the English page, obviously. We haven't rushed to produce that in 140 different languages or for 140 different territories. What we did do was make sure that we built a website that could flip over into another language relatively easily. So we just basically look at the page, translate the bits that need to be translated, keep that effort to the minimum, slightly focus different things depending on what territory and the feedback, again, that we're getting from the where we are, and just our aim always is to add on a new language-facing website when we begin to feel that there's some traction going on in a particular part of the world. Then, of course, you've got to get your website visited, so you can stick it out there and see what happens. But obviously, and I'm not going to talk in an environment like this about the obvious, except to say, if you're not great with search engine optimization or using social media, there's lots of people out there who can help you with this. Obviously, UKTI themselves offer lots and lots of support for businesses that want to do this. And in the big wide world, there's lots and lots of companies who will be very keen to take your cash to help you do it. Then it comes back to you, because you've got the tools to look at each one of those companies and make your own mind up. which is the one that genuinely can help you go to this territory or that territory. And it probably will be lots of different companies. It probably won't be one company that's going to cover the whole wide world. Not unless you can afford WWP or something like that. But anyway, your partner, when you finally choose a local partner, also is a key person to help you focus that website, get the message out, get the views to that website, and also to help you in social media locally. So, you know, the Twitter feeds that you might want them to push through for you, they will help make sure that you don't commit any cardinal sins and offend anybody by what you're going to say. So, in other words, again, you are, as you grow, going to start needing other people to help and support you. But I can't stress enough, don't be put off. When you're starting, you've got all those tools at your disposal, and you've got a network of people who will help you. The other thing, and the thing I'd like to stress more than anything, is that the one thing you really do need to hold on to is, and get to grips with, is your data. So one of the things that Littlebridge has started to do in the last 18 months is really, really, really spend time looking at everything that's coming back to us from within our program that's telling us what our customers are doing. So we, as a company, spend, I'd say, the biggest proportion of our time communally, apart from staring out the window and watching what's going on Hammersmith Bridge Road, which is where we are. We're staring at the screen, looking at everything that our users are telling us that they're doing. So we started with basic Google Analytics tools, which are there for everybody to use, and we're gradually building our own data points in, trying not to put things there that are going to tell us what we want to hear, but rather put things there that are going to tell us that are more uncomfortable to hear. And then, most importantly, acting upon it, because your data is the most precious thing you have. And you can also go back to, if you like, the sort of low-tech version of just create a feedback form and then spread it out as much as you possibly can, again, using digital tools, but, you know, a simple Word document where you ask the questions that you kind of almost fear the answers for, and get that information back and then act on it. If you get the opportunity to use third-party evaluation, yeah, okay, so this is my, this is my condensed message of why I want other people to look at Littlebridge and say, yeah, this is the one we want to go for. So you've got to find a way of condensing your message, but we can come back to that if you want. But yeah, this is something that we've also spent a lot of time on, which is getting other people get to evaluate and try and, pushing them at a distance from us, making them third-party, independent people who are going to say things about your product. Now, clearly, you're probably not going to publish anything that says this is rubbish, but if you've got the things right to date, there's a good chance that you'll get some really interesting data back that you can use and present, and again, get out there and show people that your product really does do what you've been saying it's going to do. So, yeah. Sorry, I'm just lost here where I was going here. Yeah, so again, use every possible digital channel that you have to publish the data that you've collected. So your data is very important, but then also you've got a wealth of other people's data to explore. Going back to that first bet, when we got people from India, China, Brazil, everywhere coming and asking us and saying they'd like to be our distributor, we went back to base and did what I would imagine anybody who's curious about how to get out there would do. And we researched them. We researched the people who come to our stand or approached us, and we then researched the territory, because the one thing you can't afford to do if you're a company the size that we are is say, right, we'll do everything. We'll go, oh, this is great. Everybody wants our product. Let's get out there. So we spent a very long time looking at those territories and making decisions about where we were going to start. And we narrowed it down to 3 in our first year. So we could have done 33, but we got it down to 3. And that was a mixture of getting as much information as we could on the individual companies, but as I say, understanding the countries. Were they actually digitally ready, set up to use our product, or are we just going to fall over because the infrastructure is not there in that particular country? And at that point, I should say that we also got massive amount of support from UKTI. So mine their data as well. They have so much information about territories that you're interested in, and probably also can, in fact, yeah, I think this is true, isn't it, Ian? Could probably suggest, actually, you ought to look at this partner before you jump into that one, because their experience means they've got to know some of these people who come to places like BET and offer to partner with British companies. So use everybody else's data as well. And then basically when you've shortlisted those people, then that's when the digital side needs to be parked for a little while and you've got to get out there. So you've hopefully done enough background using the tools that are available to make the decision, right now it's worth me spending my precious budget to get out there and meet those people. And for all my enthusiasm for what digital can do, in the end, you can look at these partners as virtual partners, but in the end, you've just got to get out there and you've got to meet them. So, well, let me have a look. Where are we now? Obviously, there are those other kind of partners, the app stores and all the rest of it, that are more and more becoming part of the education landscape. And you can't go and meet those, but you can meet some people who are representing them at events like this. And obviously, there's a whole separate talk on how best to deliver your product on mobile devices. And it's back to that old basic premise, I think, of making sure you've got enough data plugged into your products to give you the feedback to tell you where you're going wrong or where you're going right, hopefully, as well. So digital tools are definitely, in my view, the key to creating great channels for your business. And you should be aiming as a small business, well, maybe all business, to maximize your impact and efficiency with minimum cost. Your time and your money are what's going to make the big difference. But then you can, once you've got that partnership in place, you can do, again, everything you possibly can, no matter how big or small you are, to make sure that it's a successful partnership. And training is what it's all about, whether you're training the partners or you're helping the partners train the end users, the customers. And again, digital tools, when you're back here in the UK, are your channel to do this. So, even if it comes down to a smartphone, a little video where you're talking to your customers as if they were standing in front of you, and maybe with a translated text box running underneath, stick that on the usual channels, and you're halfway there to getting people to not only buy your product but buy into your product and know what to do with it. So again, digital tools are what it's all about. We've also, a slightly more pedestrian level but essential, used digital tools to make sure that we've created the sales framework for people to do business on our behalf around the world. So people can actually use the way that they like to do business and then plug in to our system so that we can also monitor what they're doing without sort of coming in saying, we know better than you how to reach your customers. But again, using the kind of off-the-shelf digital sales tools, or building your own, which is the route we eventually went down, is pretty critical. It takes time, but it's absolutely invaluable. So really, the only other thing I really wanted to say to you was looking at the trends, the tools, the trends. I can't emphasize enough what a world of opportunity there is out there. The digital has impacted on the education space in amazing ways that create amazing opportunities for British companies who I still believe are the best in the world as far as innovation is concerned. So use that opportunity, use these opportunities, and however small you are, I really, really believe that you can make an impact. The last thing I'd like to say really is that through the digital space, there is an enormous network of support available for exporters. I can't emphasize enough how much from the sort of professional level of organizations like UKTI, professional organizations like BISA, any of those kind of networks are massively helpful. You should go in there and just ask for help, and they will give it to you. But also, don't be afraid to go and talk to the people around you who you think, actually, they're doing really well. I'd really like to know how they do it, because my experience is that it's a really friendly, helpful community, and just something someone says to you, it's not that you're going to scurry off and necessarily, oh, I'm going to copy what they do, but it's that kind of interaction, you know, even by plain old digital email is what's going to help you get your business off the ground internationally. So I guess what that really brings me back to saying is that although obviously you can probably tell I'm a great fan of what digital can do and has done for my company, in the end it does come back to that old-fashioned thing of people, whether it's people you're working with, people that you're trying to communicate with, people you're offering, and that's how I see it, offering my product and service to, because I believe that what I'm offering actually is of value to people. Ultimately, there is no substitute for that, but, you know, as I say, it's just the steps on the way is really where tapping into everything that's available out there. And I've not mentioned things like Facebook and Twitter and all those kind of things that I'm absolutely certain that all of you are quite well aware of and ready to do. And in fact, I have to say, it was on Twitter last night that I heard that Littlebridge had been highly commended in the Export Awards this year, because I wasn't at the event. So, you know, it's all there for the taking. So all I can say, the world's waiting. Just get out there and do it. And good luck to everybody.